Hello BookTube and welcome to Weekly Reads. So for the bulk of this week, I've been reading, and I finished yesterday, Ecstatic Nation, Confidence, Crisis, and Compromise, 1848 to 1877 by Brenda Wineapple. This is a history of the United States from the death of John Quincy Adams to the inauguration of Rutherford B. Hayes, although some of the final chapters go beyond or through Hayes's administration. So this book is wonderful. I loved every moment of it. The history, it's a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Definitely shows that I'm definitely still gravitating more towards nonfiction, certainly history compared to the made-up stories. One thing I kind of noted in the book that sort of bugged me is that the lead up to the Civil War and is kind of, it's an integrated history in the sense that Wineapple incorporates not only political history but also some technological history and cultural history in this early part, as well as abolitionist history and the Southern fight against it. And then the Civil War is basically just the Civil War. But Reconstruction, that section it's a little weird because there's only there's a chapter devoted to the suffrage movement, and so it goes back into the 1840s. The convention in Seneca took place in, I think, 48. So that was kind of weird. And the Indian Wars that took place concurrent and after the Civil War and before the Civil War have basically two chapters tacked on at the end, and these three chapters, they're very interesting, and the book's great, but they're just, I don't know, I don't want to say they're afterthoughts, but it kind of feels tacked on, of that they could have been incorporated a bit better, although I'm not entirely sure how. But on the whole, I really love this book, and it's lit a fire for me to read and look for more American history, particularly of this period. So that's great. Absolutely loved it. Again, I did spend most of this reading week reading it, and I had expected to finish it today, but I managed to finish it yesterday, and so that left me with a free day to read. And so I decided what I'm going to do is, when I do get such free periods, I'm going to, for now, until I finish, read the selected poetry of Robinson Jeffers. Robinson Jeffers is one of my favorite poets. He was active during the early mid 20th century. His poetry is noted for their environmental concerns, and I first encountered him during an assignment for a modern American poetry class that I took as an undergraduate. And so I started off with Tamar, Jeffers' first collection, and while the lyrical poems selected from this collection, this first collection, I love, I remembered how much I hate Tamar. Tamar is this it's not long enough to be an epic poem, but it's sort of a long narrative poem that's about this family in California. They're sort of on the decline. They're a bit gothic. There's quite a bit of incest. It's just weird, and I don't like it. I've never really cared for it all that. I mean, I've never cared for it at all. Um, so I'm like, ugh. Now I remember how much I hate this poem. But it did get me to thinking whether or not Jeffers was perhaps an influence on William Faulkner. The family depicted in this poem kind of, sort of, maybe could have been an influence on the Compsons. And also certainly thinking about any possible influences on Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith, two early writers of science fiction and fantasy and horror. Because the style that Jeffers employs is quite reminiscent, I think, of Lovecraft and certainly of Smith. So that would be something interesting topic to look into. But so I'm currently only did Tamar, largely because I sort of, after I decided to bail on Tamar, I'm like, I don't want to really go on to Roan Snellian. But I did want to read one of his poems because it is my favorite poem by Jeffers. So hopefully I don't butcher this reading, but Shine, Perishing Republic. While this America settles in the mold of its vulgarity, heavily thickening to empire and protest, only a bubble in the molten mass pops and sighs out, and the mass hardens. I sadly smiling remember that the flower fades to make fruit, the fruit rots to make earth, out of the mother and through the spring exultances, ripeness and decadence, and home to the mother. You making haste on decay, not blameworthy, life is good, be it stubbornly long or suddenly immortal splendor. Meteors are not needed less than mountains, shine, perishing republic. But for my children, I would have them keep their distance from the thickening center. Corruption never has been compulsory. When the cities lie at the monster's feet, there are left the mountains, and boys being nothing so moderate as in love of man, a clever servant, insufferable master. There is the trap that catches noblest spirits that caught, they say, God when he walked on earth. Love that poem. So anyway, so I'm looking forward to reading more of that. And tomorrow, I'm planning on reading over the course of Saturday and Sunday a book I just hauled this today, The Black Prince by Catherine Fletcher. This is a biography of Alessandro de' Medici. I'm quite looking forward to it. And so on Monday, which will be the beginning of February, obviously, I will be starting my readings for the BookTube Prize. I am, again, a judge for the BookTube Prize, and I was selected to judge in the first round. And so my plan is I'm going to try to do BookTube Prize readings during the work week. So this coming week, I will be doing Agent Sonya by Ben Macintyre. I'll be reading it on ebook, or my local libraries, their ebook app has 4 of the 6. So Agent Sonya by Ben Macintyre, and I'll also be doing The Dragons, The Dragons, the Giant, The Women by Wayuto Moore this month. And then next month I will be doing Hidden Valley, and I'm blanking on the author's name, and the Mark Doty book, which I'm blanking on the title I'll look into that later. And then I'll also be, and then the other two, Mediocre and Haunting Squares, I'll have to buy physically. Haunting Squares because my library doesn't have a copy, and Mediocre because while there is an audiobook of it, I loathe audiobooks. That's one thing I found out last year for the BookTube Prize. I'm not a fan of audiobooks, so I'm going to go ahead and order a physical copy too. Anyway, and if I manage to finish or have any free time left over, I'll probably read some more Jeffers. So that's my reading week. I've been watching more of The Toys That Made Us. I honestly don't think the show really bears up for a second viewing. It's, I don't know, I guess maybe the narration and some of the style of the documentary I'm finding increasingly off-putting. But I only have 2 episodes to go, so I'll try to finish that tonight. And then starting tomorrow, I will probably work on the movies that made us and get that out as well. And so I can go ahead and boot them both off of my endless Netflix queue. And I also watched the 4th episode of WandaVision this afternoon while I was uploading my book haul. And I really enjoyed it. While the first 2 episodes I think are maybe a little rough, the 3rd and 4th episodes, particularly the 4th episode, have been amazing. So I'm really loving that. And I think after the Super Bowl, I'm going to restart watching Ice Fantasy, the Chinese fantasy series I'd been watching through parts of 2020. I kind of dropped out around, I think, the 15th episode because I can't stand the main character. He's just too plain, too something. And I really prefer his brother, Shi. He's much more interesting of a character. Wish he was the main protagonist, but oh well. Anyway, BookTube, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. And I will be back Monday with a reaction to the BookTube spin, I think. And I might also do my readings for 2017, for February of 2017. So anyway, BookTube, that's my plans for the beginning of next week. I mean, obviously hopefully there'll be some tags on Tuesday. I didn't get to any of the tags I wanted to do this week. So probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday might be some tags, and then Friday will be another weekly reads. So until next week, BookTube, thank you, have a great weekend and evening, and please stay safe.